ultimate amplifier on this kind of hate is the bully pulpit of the White House. And I think that this is not just a question of technology. This is a question of leadership. Will the President of the United States leave his golf resort, go back to Washington, address the nation, condemn in no uncertain terms white nationalism as an evil ideology that is inspiring some people to commit murder, and call for the Senate to convene tomorrow to enact at least the most basic gun safety reforms that most Americans want? Or will there be a mix of silence today and more hate tomorrow coming from the highest office in the land? I don't think we can social media engineer our way out of a problem when the highest leadership in this country is stoking it. I had a statement ready, and I can't even think about it right now. I don't know if you all are seeing what's coming out of Texas. America is under attack. America is under attack from homegrown white nationalist terrorism. And we have to talk and act about two things in this country. First of all, we are the only country in the world with more guns than people. It has not made us safer. We can respect the Second Amendment and not allow it to be a death sentence for thousands of Americans. And two, white nationalism is evil. And it is inspiring people to commit murder, and it is being condoned at the highest levels of the American government, and that has to end. The first time I became aware that our country was under attack, like most people in my generation, I think, was 9/11. And for a hot minute, we all swore up and down that we were going to be different, that it was going to change us, and that being attacked was going to bring out the best in this country. That's what we said. So how about this time? We've got decisions to make here. Right now, I just saw a picture before I came out here. They are lining up down the block in El Paso to give blood. Just like they did here after October 1. And they're doing that because you feel like at least you can do something. They're close to where it's happening, so at least they can do something. And so can we, if we have the courage. But we've got a decision to make. Are we or are we not prepared to stand up to the corporate gun lobby? And are we or are we not prepared to stand up to the evil of white nationalism in this country?
At least one of the other Democratic presidential candidates, Beto O'Rourke, has said that President Trump and his rhetoric bear some responsibility for the acts of this madman. Do you think that's fair?
Well, there's no question that white nationalism is condoned at the highest levels of our government. You know, when this kind of rhetoric happened 20 years ago, when David Duke was trying to run for office as a Republican, the Republican Party was horrified. They couldn't run away fast enough. Right now, you see it being echoed by the White House, and there is a measure of responsibility that you just can't get away from when you have, you know, case after case of racial rhetoric coming out of the White House. And then when you have an actual incident of white nationalist terrorism like the killing in Charlottesville related to people saying Jews will not replace us, and the president saying he got very fine people there, of course this is part of a climate where people who are in the grip of this hateful extremist ideology feel validated, and they feel validated from all the way at the top, and that is part of our problem.
Welcome back to State of the Union on this horrible, grief-stricken Sunday. I'm Jake Tapper. We're following breaking news out of El Paso, Texas, and out of Dayton, Ohio. Dozens have been killed in two separate mass shootings. Joining me now to respond to this horrible news, 2020 presidential candidate, South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Mayor Buttigieg, thanks for joining us on this rough day. These two shootings, El Paso, Dayton, they're some of the deadliest mass shootings in our country's history. Between them, they've left at least 29 innocent people dead, 42 injured in a 13-hour span. Do you think this is actually going to spur lawmakers into action?
Well, every time this happens, we say never again. We say we're going to do something. We say it's going to change, and it hasn't. I've been thinking a lot about the fact that this same debate and this same cycle has been going on my entire adult life. And I'm wondering what it will take to get the sense of urgency, to get Washington to actually respond, especially when Americans, frankly, in both parties, want to see changes, at least some basic common sense measures on gun safety, not to mention the need to stand up to white nationalist terrorism. And we got to call that what it is if we're going to fight it. I wonder what it will take to deliver the sense of urgency. After Sandy Hook, we said surely after this. And time again, this has happened. At the end of the day, without political change, I don't know that we'll get the solutions we need, but if this doesn't do it, I don't know what will.
After each mass shooting, there is a debate. I mean, we almost know how this is going to play, a debate about what can we do, if anything, to stop it. We know very little about the specifics of either of these cases, Dayton or El Paso, who the shooters were, how they got their guns, but any thoughts about how you could potentially stop these kinds of mass killings?
Well, you're right. After every mass shooting, we say, how long till the next one? And in this case, the answer was a matter of hours. Sooner or later, we've got to face up to the fact that we live in the only country in the world with more guns than people, and the only country in the world where this happens all the time. We cannot allow the Second Amendment to be a death sentence for thousands of Americans a year, nor can we say there's nothing to be done when we live in the only country where this is routine. Now, the amazing thing to me is that most Americans, most gun owners, most Republicans believe we should at least have universal background checks, red flag laws that disarm domestic abusers and help us identify cases where there's a mental health risk. And even that cannot get through this Congress, cannot get through this Senate. It shows you that the NRA no longer speaks for gun owners, it speaks for gun corporations. And it shows you that Washington has been captured by special interests that no longer reflect the American people. I was in high school when the Columbine shooting happened. These debates have been going on my entire adult life, and nothing has changed. We have to ask ourselves as a country if we're really willing to allow this to continue, or if we will take some steps to save American lives.